Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Strategy Show. I'm Simon Severino, your host. And today I have globally recognized speaker, author, and consultant with me. He teaches marketing at Rutgers University. His newest book is on fire. It's called Marketing Rebellion and explores why marketing is changing completely and how we can cope with it. Welcome, everybody, Mark Schaefer.
Hey, Simon, nice to see you.
Super excited to have you here, Mark. My first question, what are you currently creating?
Well, I am constantly creating. I'm working on a couple of interesting new projects. One that's really exciting is I recently took on a new role as Chief Operating Officer of a company called B Squared Media. And this is a company that's really reinvented the online customer care and outsourced social media management functions. It's an amazing, amazing company. So I've been doing a series of webinars with them. So that's been a lot of fun to explore some of these really rapid changing topics. I've created a new talk that I'm providing now. It's built for Zoom. It's built for the online world. And it's called Fight to the Other Side. So I talk about practical things that we can hold on to during this time of uncertainty. So it sort of lifts people up and gives them encouragement. And then I'm also working on a new book. And it's still too early to really talk about it in depth. I'm still getting my footing in terms of the direction of the book. But I think it's safe to say it's an evolution of my thinking in terms of how power has shifted in the world, and perhaps it's shifted now too much. And if we're an entrepreneur, if we're a struggling business, how do we get an advantage in this world where it seems like the rich get richer and the poor just keep struggling to try to become known?
I love your old book right now, your current book, Marketing Rebellion.
Yeah,
And
it's not that old.
I especially love the promotional video. Please, people,
Thank you.
Please, people, check that out on YouTube. Marketing Rebellion. It's one of the best short videos about a book that I ever saw in my life. And I like also the process, like when you were writing, that you had this moment when you realized and were afraid to
Yeah.
really say it aloud.
It's very
that,
true. It's very true.
yeah, that nobody
I
knows
haven't,
what marketing is right now.
yeah, I haven't really, talked about that a lot, but really, what Marketing Rebellion is about, I think, simply put, it's a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call to make people realize that marketing doesn't work the way maybe we imagine that it works. It doesn't work today like maybe it did 3, 4, 5 years ago. So if you have a marketing department that's kind of making incremental changes, incremental improvements year to year, you're probably falling behind pretty quickly. And Simone, as I researched this book and I was becoming aware of some of these cataclysmic changes myself, I did have a moment. I was kind of like in this chair reading some of this research, and I thought, I don't know what it means to be a marketer anymore. This is so different than what I grew up with, than what I learned in school or how I operated in companies or as a consultant. And it requires a new mindset. You sort of hinted at this, where the customer is the marketer today, right? 2/3 of our marketing is occurring without us. And so great marketing today, I think, has to be aware of this and think through, if 2/3 of our marketing is occurring without us, How do we get invited to that conversation? That's a very different way to think about marketing than the way we've operated in the past.
Absolutely. This is so strong. And I love that you have the courage to come up with it and that you had the courage to face it and to speak it out, because that's exactly the power of this book and how you bring it across, that you really try to disillusion us and say, people, it's not the marketing department anymore. It's really out there in the streets. It's the relation. It's the value that is created. But before we get there, I want to ask you the strategy award question. So let's get to the strategy award. If you could nominate one firm out there, pick just one and say they are doing it right, they are doing it differently, who would that be?
Well, it's a company that I wrote about in the Marketing Rebellion, and they're one of my favorite companies out there right now because to me, they really represent what great marketing is today. And I think overall, great marketing is being led by young people, by new people coming into the field who are digital natives, who look at the ways that we've been spamming people and annoying people and doing lead nurturing, which is a very nice way of saying we're going to keep spamming you and annoying you until you block us. They look at these things and they think, why would you do that? We don't like that. We wouldn't do that to each other. And so Glossier is a company I really admire. It was founded by a blogger. And this is an important point because today, increasingly, the personal brand is the brand. She wasn't known. People are forming emotional attachments to a person more than a product or some attribute of the product. And so she was this blogger, and through her blog, she discovered that a lot of people were very unhappy with the skincare and cosmetics industry. They think it's a bloated industry that's out of touch with today's world. They said, why can't we have a company that treats us like a friend instead of creating all these, ads with beautiful people that we can never be? And so Emily created this company. So those are a couple significant points. Another significant point is that she does no paid advertising. 100% of her growth, and she's one of the fastest growing skincare and cosmetic companies in the world, it all takes place through user-generated content, word of mouth recommendations, right? To her, the customer is the hero. The customer is the centerpiece. The customer is the marketer. So all of the models on her site that are demonstrating the products, they're all her real customers. Her marketing department is out there looking at people on social media, following hashtags to find their best fans, acknowledge them, and reward them. So that's what marketing really is today. So there's a lot of things that Glossier is doing right. They're really a very inspiring company, and they get my strategy award for today.
Yes, strategy award. And now, can you unpack a little bit more about why do you think that marketing should not be done by the marketing department, but it should really happen on the street? It should happen there where the love for the product is, which is at the consumer side.
Well, I think marketing still belongs in the marketing department. It's just the activities and the strategy are radically different than we would have imagined, a few years ago, or perhaps even what we're embracing today in many companies. So this idea that the customer is the marketer, that's happening with us or without us. People are having conversations about us. And the research shows that trust in businesses, brands, and advertising has declined 11 years in a row. So who do people trust? They trust entrepreneurs, company founders, technical experts, their neighbors, their friends, their family. People trust people. And so that's why there has been this big shift. Traditional advertising is in decline. So we know people they don't see ads on TV as much anymore. We're in a streaming world, right? We're consuming more television than ever, but we're watching it on, Disney Plus or on Netflix or on Amazon. We're listening to more music than ever, but we're listening on Spotify or iTunes or something like that, or we're listening to audiobooks, and there aren't any ads. So we have to find another way to connect and communicate to our audience. And that's why I said, 2/3 of our marketing is now, controlled by other people. And we can't buy our way in to that 2/3. We have to earn our way in, and we have to sort of find authentic ways to seed our stories, to seed our value into the narratives that are going on without us. That's really what marketing is today.
So instead of pushing, we should aim to get invited to these conversations.
Yeah. And one thing that I always say in any of my books or any of my talks is that, I never tell you what to do. The people watching today or hearing us, they're experienced experts. They know what works and they know what doesn't work. I'm only suggesting that in many ways the world has changed, and I think we need to open our eyes to new realities and new possibilities. Sure, there's still a place for advertising. There will always be a place for advertising. There's a lot of money being spent on digital advertising right now. Some of it's very, effective. So there's, the world is changing, but we have to be aware of what our customers want, what they demand from us. They want a different kind of relationship with us based on a human connection, based on transparency and authenticity and real human connection. And what I show in this book, I start the book with a little history lesson that shows whenever the customers demand that companies change, they always win. They always win. And so I think we really don't have a choice but to understand where the consumer world is right now and respect what they want from our companies.
The times, they are changing. How did you change your mind about your own marketing? You are a content producing machine, a global producing machine. How did you change your way of doing it over the last years, and now especially in?
Well, I think that I'm evolving as a person. I'm growing. I'm learning. That's why, each one of my books is sort of an evolution in my thought process, an evolution in my way of thinking as I learn and I grow. My blog, my podcast has evolved and changed over the years. And, I think today it's so very competitive that I'm never complacent with my content. When I create my content, I only have one idea in my mind, and it is this: I will never let you down. If you spend time with one of my blog posts or a book or a podcast episode, it's going to be worth your time. You might not agree with me, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be relevant. It's going to be timely, and it might even be entertaining, might even be funny. The other thing is that, especially in the last few months, I've pivoted my content, right? So when the pandemic hit, I looked at what I had planned for my blog, and it was irrelevant. It just seemed tone deaf. And so I stopped. And I had a realization that the heart of what I do is I'm a teacher. Whether I'm writing a book or a blog post or I'm giving a speech on a stage, I'm a teacher. And what I realized is that the world needs me to teach something else right now. And so I pivoted my content to address the issues of the day, the issues of the moment. How do we survive in this pandemic? How do we market? How do we sell? How do we handle uncertainty? How do we handle personal and professional disruption? And so those are some of the topics I think they're on my mind. And I think they're probably on a lot of other people's minds. And I figured that was the most helpful thing that I could provide. And I had a very good response to that. I even went and did Facebook Lives a couple times a week just to kind of encourage people to talk about a topic of the day and try to encourage them. And I did that until I got sick. I got the virus, and those had to stop. But I'm all better now, and I'm back to work, and I'm great.
Wow. And you are describing the shift in marketing in society and then in marketing as being a rebellion. Why is it a rebellion, and what is this rebellion?
Well, what I show in the book is that that there's been a series of consumer outcries over the years, starting at the very earliest days of marketing, when much of advertising was lies. And companies took advantage of consumers. They harmed consumers. And finally, it had to be regulated. In America, that's where we got the Federal Trade Commission, the Food and Drug Administration, to try to get companies to stop harming people. Then the next sort of rebellion came with the internet, when many companies made money on the things that people didn't know, on the secrets. And with the internet, there was this great transfer of power and transfer of information that really put the power in the hands of consumers. And now it's not unusual for someone to have more information about our product than even we do. So the second rebellion was sort of about there are no more secrets. So no more lies, no more secrets. Today, I think the rebellion is about control. And, I've been in marketing for a long time. And in the early days of my career, I think companies were in control. There was no internet. There was no social media. I mean, in my early days, that was really kind of the dawn of email. And back then, if you wanted to learn about a company, if you wanted to interact with a company, it had to be on the company's terms. It had to be through advertising or PR or product demonstrations. But today, the consumers are in control of those conversations. Back when I started, a brand was what we told you it was. Today, a brand is what people tell each other it is. So there's been this dramatic difference. And the rebellion today is basically people saying, I want you to respect me. Don't abuse me. Don't intercept me. Don't annoy me. Don't send me spam. Don't send me robocalls. Respect my time, my life, and my privacy. And again, I want to emphasize, the consumers always win. So if you're a company that is doing things that people hate, you got to stop, because eventually you're going to lose and the consumers will win. So I think companies should have a great deal of urgency to learn about what's going on right now. There's the trends I talk about in my book. It's not my view of the world. There's a lot of research there from big companies like Deloitte and Accenture and McKinsey and Harvard. And I just kind of put it together in a way that paints a picture of this new consumer reality.
Beautiful. What did you recently change your mind about?
Oh, how do I pick one? What did I recently change my mind about? One of the things that I've sort of overlooked for a long time, and it's going to sound funny, is the power of Twitter. And I actually wrote the best-selling book on Twitter called The Tao of Twitter, or the TAO, Tao of Twitter is the Chinese pronunciation. I'm notable for writing a book that nobody really knows exactly how to pronounce it. But so the Tao of Twitter, it's I think had 4 or 5 different editions. It's a best-selling book, and I've got a whole chapter on there about Twitter chats. And I sort of have moved away from Twitter as my primary social media drug of choice. I've been spending a lot more time on LinkedIn, and I've sort of like had an epiphany, a re-engagement with Twitter, kind of looking at the power of these of Twitter chats and how much people love Twitter, how they're passionate about Twitter, and how much engagement is going on Twitter compared to other platforms. I mean, real discussions, real professional conversations. And so I've sort of been reevaluating Twitter, really changed my mind. I used to really hate Twitter chats, but I see there's a lot of power there in almost any profession these days. So that's one thing that I'm certainly reevaluating.
Beautiful. And which professional books inspire you?
Well, there's a great book. I still have one on my desk here. I don't know if this will show. Maybe it's backwards. I don't know. But this is Context Marketing Revolution by Matthew Sweezy. I think that it just came out, I think in March, maybe. Not the best time to launch a book, but Matthew has one of the best jobs in the world. He's a futurist for Salesforce. So he's paid to think about what's next and do what he needs to do to find out what's next. And he sort of compiled his research, observations, and ideas into this book, The Context Marketing Revolution. It's a really powerful book. And it's, if you like the Marketing Rebellion, it's a good companion book to the Marketing Rebellion. The books sort of go together. So that's a book that is, it's a new book, and I think it's one of the best business books I've read in the last 5 years.
And which book do you find inspiring on a personal level?
I'm a big fan of Brené Brown. Brené Brown, if you're not familiar with her, she's an academic. She's a researcher, but she's also a powerful and compassionate speaker and really philosopher. And I've read several of her books. I think she does a beautiful job with her books. So I would definitely recommend Brené. Brené, the reason I admire her is she really is centered in her professional approach. She doesn't really compromise. She is who she is. She says what she has to say. She's powerful. She's effective. She's vulnerable. And she's someone I really look up to.
Who should be my next guest if you could pick one and nominate them, and why?
Well, I think a person that I think a lot of is, I mentioned that I'm working with this company, B Squared Media now, and the founder of that company is Brooke Celes, and Brooke sort of has not had like a gigantic social media reputation focused. The reason it's so significant is that she has completely reinvented online customer care and customer service. She is, the subtitle of the Marketing Rebellion is "The Most Human Company Wins." She is the most human company in her space. Real customer conversations into marketing strategy. So she's a brilliant business leader, really a visionary business leader, and one that's going to be getting a lot of attention in the future.
What is one of the biggest research questions you have right now?
Oh, that's a great question. One of the biggest research questions I have right now. I think the single biggest research question that I've been dwelling on is, what is marketing going to look like after the pandemic? There are going to be some extraordinary changes in the world. There are going to be extraordinary and permanent changes to consumer behavior. My friend Martin Lindstrom, who's another business thought leader I admire a lot, wrote recently that he thinks we're going to have a generation with post-traumatic stress disorder. Like something you would get after you've been through a war. It's quite an extraordinary statement. And he contends that the part of our brain that processes fear has been so overworked for so long that we're going to have a generation of people that are coming out of this pandemic in a very different way, in a permanent way. And I think there are a lot of implications for business and a lot of implications for marketing when we're going to have this like personality shift in our consumer base. I'm trying to think through what some of those implications might be, and I think it'll be fascinating to see what happens.
Where can people best contact you and be in contact with you?
Well, it's really easy to find me. You don't have to remember how to spell my name, but if you can remember Businesses Grow, you can find my blog, which is free for everyone, my podcast, Marketing Companion, we're now in our 8th year of that podcast. Very proud of that. You can find my books and all my social media connections at businessesgrow.com.
Beautiful. Please, everybody, check out the promotional video. So Google or search in YouTube for Marketing Rebellion. It's such an amazing video, and it's really well done, both content and form. So please do it, everybody. And Mark, when is your new book coming out?
Well, if everything goes okay, I would expect that it would be out in early 2021. I'm starting to write, chapters of the book now. But again, I have to be sensitive to everything that's going on in the world and make sure that I'm writing a book in the right context. And it will be in the right context.
Beautiful. So we want to be part of it. I hope you pass by when you launch it.
Yeah, I love that.
We want to be part of that. Thank you so much, Mark, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It was great.
Thank you.